The Show Me Cannabis Podcast.
Hello YouTube, this is Show Me Cannabis Executive Director John Payne. This week we're going to be talking about race and the war on drugs. It's a subject we've covered a little bit before, but as you're probably aware, this last weekend, an 18-year-old black man named Michael Brown was shot in the back by a police officer in Ferguson, Missouri. And so this topic is very relevant right now. And we can't talk about racially biased enforcement of criminal laws unless we start talking about the war on drugs. So that's what we're going to be discussing this week. The war on drugs has fundamentally changed the way that police function in the United States. We can't have a war on drugs without having a war on American citizens. And so it sets up an oppositional structure between the police and the citizenry. And that is particularly true in minority communities. And that really shouldn't be surprising given the racist origins of the war on drugs. Harry J. Anslinger, who is the first head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, explicitly claimed that his crusade against drugs was to go after minority users. Here's a few quotes from him from the 1930s. There are 100,000 total marijuana smokers in the U.S., and most are Negroes, Hispanics, Filipinos, and entertainers. Their satanic music, jazz, and swing result from marijuana use. This marijuana causes white women to seek sexual relations with Negroes, entertainers, and any others. And another, reefer makes darkies think they're as good as white men. So we see here that this has always been a racially charged policy. It has been a policy that was meant to oppress blacks and other minorities. And that continues today with racially biased enforcement. Although the war on drugs is not perpetuated currently with such overtly racist intentions, the outcomes still are extremely racially biased. So for instance, the ACLU did a study on the number of arrests for marijuana offenses in the United States and how they split along white and black lines. Black people are 3.73 times more likely to be arrested than whites for cannabis offenses nationwide. In the city of St. Louis, they're 18 times more likely than whites to be arrested for a cannabis offense. Also, blacks make up 13% of all drug users, which is roughly proportional to their part of the population, yet they are 35% of all those arrested for drug possession charges. They are 55% of those who are convicted of the charges, and they are 74% of those who are sent to prison on drug charges. So we can see the racial bias continuing throughout the entire system at trial, going to prison, etc. It permeates the whole thing. And in fact, if you look at the numbers, Michelle Alexander, who is a former ACLU lawyer and now a professor, she's looked at the racially biased enforcement of our criminal laws, and she calls the drug war the new Jim Crow. And she says that there are more black men incarcerated now in the United States than there were enslaved in 1860. And in fact, we have a higher proportion of black men incarcerated in this country than apartheid South Africa did in the 1980s. That is appalling, and we need to look at our drug war policies because of it. The war on drugs also perpetuates a cycle of poverty and injustice. So when one person is arrested, the family has to seek out new sources of revenue, so they have to turn to government assistance or possibly to selling drugs or other extra-legal sources of revenue, which then perpetuates the cycle of them possibly being arrested, going to prison. It encourages people to drop out of school. They have less money to go to college. So all these things take away opportunities from communities that need them the most. Show Me Cannabis wrote our 2016 initiative petitions to make sure that people will have the ability to have their criminal records expunged and to be released from prison or jail if they are serving time on nonviolent cannabis-only offenses to break this cycle of poverty and injustice. Goodbye, YouTube. Thanks for joining us this week. I urge you to share this video, subscribe, and go to our website and contribute. And please join us again next week. Thank you.
Show Me Cannabis, fighting to reform Missouri cannabis laws. Find us at show-mecannabis.com, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Together, we can reform Missouri cannabis law.